Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. We begin together by bringing our awareness to this moment, allowing a quiet stillness to settle. Let us acknowledge, without judgment, the subtle stirrings in every heart, longing and apprehension that are universally felt. There is a persistent inclination to seek the solid ground of certainty, clear answers, predictable outcomes, a world where every step is assured and every shadow dispelled. This natural plea for understanding often shapes how we perceive and respond to life. Alongside that desire lives an equally profound, often uncomfortable companion: doubt. It arrives when the future is unwritten, when decisions feel weighty and consequences unclear, when the path ahead is obscured or the foundations we relied on shift beneath us. This discomfort becomes a quiet anxiety humming in the background, influencing thoughts and actions. We find ourselves suspended between longing for clarity and the inescapable reality of life's ambiguities, a shared condition experienced in countless unique ways. Consider how this interplay shows up for you, in small daily choices or in larger questions of future, relationship, or purpose. When faced with the unknown, do you tighten your grip, striving to control and force outcomes into shapes that feel safe? Or do you recoil, resisting what is simply unfolding? This dynamic can lead to quiet exhaustion, a constant effort to solidify what is fluid, to define what is open. It creates inner tension and prevents the mind from settling. We build mental fences against uncertainty, only to discover life, in its boundless nature, finds a way around every barrier. This evening, we are invited on a shared journey, not to eliminate uncertainty, for that would deny existence, but to explore a different relation to it. Our path leads inward, asking whether we might find a deeper peace, not by conquering the unknown, but by discovering tranquility within life's uncertainties. It invites a shift in posture. Can we navigate the currents of doubt with spaciousness rather than struggle? Can we cultivate a mind less preoccupied with rigid control and more open to the wisdom of acceptance? This journey does not ask us to abandon clarity or embrace recklessness. It points to where true peace resides, not in external guarantees, but in an internal spaciousness that lets us meet whatever arises with greater calm and presence. Our teaching gently guides us away from the constant effort to control what lies beyond our grasp and toward a liberating acceptance of life as it is. It is a subtle reorientation from resistance to open engagement. As we proceed, we will explore how this shift transforms our inner landscape and the way we experience the world. There is a quiet strength and unshakable resilience available when we allow ourselves to rest amid life's complex, unfolding mystery. This is the path we begin to walk together. This understanding deepens as we see existence itself as a trackless expanse, always shifting. We yearn for security, for a blueprint promising safe passage. Yet life seldom offers rigid assurances. It presents a fluid landscape whose only constant is change. To insist on a fixed map, to cling to what was or what we wished, is to deny the living reality, like a traveler in a wild forest who ignores a new stream or a fallen tree while still searching for a path that no longer exists. Such rigidity blinds us to the present moment's contours and opportunities for insight. It creates internal friction, a quiet struggle against the currents of impermanence. Rooted in a need for control, this stance can lead to a profound sense of being lost. If progress is measured by adherence to an unyielding course, every deviation becomes frustration. We may perpetually seek an external authority, a perfect teaching, an infallible guide, to relieve the responsibility of inner discernment. This outward gaze diminishes our capacity to hear the subtle wisdom within. The forest offers no single dominant path, but many interwoven trails, some clear, some faint, some appearing only as we move. The journey is not about finding the only way, but discovering our way, moment by moment, guided by sensitivity to the terrain and openness to learning. Consider cultivating an inner compass, not rigid directions, but a quiet, abiding presence. This compass is mindfulness, an attuned awareness registering subtle shifts in inner and outer landscapes, the changing light, the wind's sound, the earth beneath our feet, the stirrings of thought and feeling. It notes desire's pull, aversion's sting, confusion's fog, and insight's clarity as transient phenomena. Observing with gentle curiosity and without judgment gathers information not for control, but for responsiveness. We begin to discern which paths align with peace and which lead to agitation. This is not following impulses, but cultivating sustained, reflective sensitivity to informed choices. Aimless wandering appears when this inner compass is neglected and we are carried by distractions, external suggestions, or unexamined impulses. Without mindful grounding, movements become reactive, driven by habit or shallow desire, steering us away from deeper intentions. It is not lacking a map that makes us lost, but lacking presence. If our minds linger in past regrets or future anxieties, even clear signs go unnoticed. We miss subtle cues signaling a shift, a needed turn, or a chance to rest. True aimlessness is not just lacking destination, it is lacking engagement with the journey itself. Thus, dynamic adaptation is the essence of wise navigation, engaged flexibility, a willingness to adjust not from weakness, but from wisdom. When a fallen tree blocks the path, wisdom does not insist on moving it or forcing the same route. It prompts a detour or a pause to reassess. This adaptation is guided by an intuitive sense born of integrated experience, present awareness, and compassionate intention, a knowing beyond analysis that senses which way feels more open and aligned with freedom and peace. This intuition is not infallible but a cultivated sensitivity, refined through practice and open to correction. Even our best guidance can be imperfect, shaped by bias or gaps. So we step with gentle inquiry, observing consequences inside and out. If a path breeds suffering or confusion, openness to correction lets us acknowledge feedback without reproach and change course. This iterative learning is like an artisan refining craft, observing, adjusting, improving through action and reflection. True progress is found in this process, not the reaching of a final static destination. Life's path, like the forest, keeps evolving, but in inner transformation. A mind more resilient, compassionate, discerning, and at ease with uncertainty. Progress is the growing ability to be fully present, to respond wisely, and to walk with an open heart, clear mind, and trust in unfolding. The journey is not about eliminating the unknown, but befriending it, discovering that within uncertainty lies potential for liberation and lasting peace. Our practice invites us into this forest of life with courage, curiosity, and a quiet, knowing smile. The gentle wisdom of the Buddha invites us to pause and notice our tendency to seek refuge in extremes. We oscillate between the rigid conviction that we must possess all answers, an exhaustion of certainty, and the opposing fear of the unknown, an avoidance of ambiguity that threatens our sense of control. Both poles, while seeming to offer solace, lead to suffering, trapping the mind in attachment and aversion. The path to liberation is not found by leaning into either extreme, but by steering a course between them, the middle way. This is not mere compromise, but a profound insight. True peace and wisdom do not come from eradicating uncertainty or hoarding definitive answers, but from coexisting with life's ambiguities. It shifts us from striving and struggle to acceptance and spaciousness. When we release the need to comprehend every thread of life's tapestry, we free ourselves from constant analysis and the anxiety of unmet expectations. Liberation lets the mind relax, soften its grip on fixed notions, and open to the unfolding present. The middle path is not a static goal, but a living art of balance, a continuous dance between forces, a mindful awareness guiding us moment by moment to navigate life with grace and equanimity. This balance shows most clearly in faith and intelligence, often cast as opposing forces where one must triumph. Some lean on unexamined belief, accepting teachings without inquiry and seeking security in conviction. Others dismiss faith altogether, relying only on intellect, demanding proof and becoming skeptical of anything beyond logical deconstruction. The middle way reminds us that both extremes limit understanding. Unquestioning faith, without discernment, breeds rigidity, dogmatism, and resistance to new insight. It blinds us to nuance and stalls real growth. Conversely, exclusive reliance on intellect, without the softening of direct experience, yields a sterile comprehension that dissects but misses the currents of compassion, connection, and mystery beyond concepts. The middle invites us to temper faith with intelligence, to question, observe, test, and also approach with an open heart, knowing some truths reveal themselves in experience rather than argument. It encourages skepticism that prevents blind acceptance and humility that recognizes the limits of thought. This cultivates a mind both discerning and receptive, able to hold belief and doubt together. The path asks that we soften skepticism with direct experience. Healthy skepticism protects us from illusion and prompts inquiry. Yet when it hardens into a wall of disbelief, it blocks potentially transformative experiences. The subtle shifts that arise in meditation, quiet contemplation, or inner change. The middle way asks us to apply discernment while remaining open to personal knowing. This is not abandoning reason, but expanding what counts as knowledge. Some truths about mind, suffering, and liberation are best understood through embodied experience, the felt sensations, quiet insights, and perspective shifts of mindful practice. These experiences complement intellectual understanding, moving teachings from theory into lived reality. This interplay of inquiry and experience becomes a powerful engine of insight, building an understanding both robust and personal. It frees the mind from extremes, absolute certainty or absolute disbelief, and opens a nuanced, compassionate, liberating way of being. Mindful engagement with uncertainty cultivates an inner freedom, not dependent on conditions, but arising from a cultivated wisdom, a deep, abiding peace unshaken by life's currents. This freedom finds its deepest expression in equanimity, a state of mind undisturbed by life's shifting tides. It is not indifference but a profound balance, heart and mind greeting joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame with steady presence. Equanimity grows from understanding reality, that phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and lack a fixed self. When this understanding permeates us, intense desires for pleasant experiences and aversions to unpleasant ones loosen. The obsessive chase for absolutes, perfect happiness, security, or knowledge eases, for reality resists our rigid expectations. A mind freed from extreme attachment and resistance becomes a clearer mirror, revealing truth not through doctrine, but through its own clarity and function. This clarity is not acquired from outside. It is inherent in the awakened mind, obscured by defilements. When freed from intense desire, lobha, aversion, dosa, and delusion, moha, the mind's natural discernment shines. It's like seeing the sky after clouds disperse. The blue was always there. Our conditioned patterns often hide this simple presence. Equanimity is not merely peace, but active perception, letting the mind function optimally. It permits seeing things as they are, without the distorting lenses of preference and bias. Cultivated stillness turns the mind into a sensitive instrument, detecting subtle nuances previously unnoticed. From such clarity, wisdom, panya, arises, not as facts, but as direct, intuitive knowing that cuts through illusions causing suffering. To cultivate this state, we use practices that guide the mind toward stillness. Imagine a clear lake on a calm day, reflecting sky and trees. Stones thrown in or wind on the surface distort or erase the reflections. Our mind is like that lake, agitated by craving and aversion, or disturbed by intrusive thoughts and emotions. Its reflective capacity falters. Through meditation, we learn to quiet disturbances, not by forcing them away, but by observing them with gentle, non-reactive awareness. Thoughts arise and pass like drifting clouds. Emotions visit and leave. Patient practice calms the surface, allowing intrinsic clarity to emerge. The aim is not a particular state, but the skill of mindful presence, which naturally fosters equanimity. This process shows that profound insights are discovered within experience, not imposed from outside. Settled in equanimity, the mind becomes deeply receptive, listening to subtle vibrations of consciousness and observing the dance of causes shaping its internal landscape. This inner observation reveals impermanence, the unsatisfying nature of attachment, and the absence of a fixed self, not as abstract ideas but as direct, felt realities arising from clear, discerning awareness. In a moment of equanimity, one might plainly perceive how clinging to desire creates immediate tension, and how unmet or changing objects bring dissatisfaction. This is not logical deduction, but direct apprehension, an embodied knowing beyond mere intellectual assent. Thus, the inward journey guided by equanimity transforms our relationship with truth. We stop seeking truth as external object or dogma and discover it as unfolding reality revealed through our own clarity. This inner source is robust and reliable, not dependent on authorities or circumstances. It is a wellspring of wisdom, always available if we cultivate conditions for it to flow, observing, letting go of clinging, and resting in an open, aware spaciousness. Suffering diminishes not because the world changes, but because our response transforms. We meet life's challenges with quiet strength, a resilient heart, and a peaceful mind, recognizing the deepest truths in the serene expanse of consciousness. This inner clarity becomes a steady beacon, guiding us through complexity, so that amid uncertainty we remain grounded, responding wisely and compassionately, fostering a truly liberated way of being. We continue by recognizing that the mind seeks clarity through expectation and attachment, which can become a quiet tension, a low hum of dissatisfaction, when reality diverges from imagined scenarios. Our inner landscape becomes a stage where thoughts and emotions replay, often driven by an unspoken demand for things to be other than they are. We get caught in loops of planning and worrying, trying to solve problems that have not arisen, or replaying the past with a wish to rewrite it. This constant engagement with what is not prevents full inhabitation of the present. It breeds a subtle unease mistaken for our natural state, when it is really the mind striving to control the uncontrollable. The wisdom here is not to eradicate these inclinations, but to observe them with a gentle, non-judging curiosity. The practice asks us to pause and sense these states. Notice, without judgment, the contractions when expectations are unmet, a tightening in the chest, a warmth in the face, a quickened breath. These are embodied signals. When anxiety appears, rather than labeling it bad or pushing it away, consider it an indicator of attachment to an outcome, to certainty, or to avoiding discomfort. That shift is profound. What once caused suffering becomes insight. We move from being overwhelmed to becoming a compassionate witness. This is active, gentle inquiry. What is this feeling telling me? What attachment or aversion lies beneath? Such questions begin to unveil mental mechanisms, revealing how the mind constructs experience. We learn to treat internal states as teachers rather than enemies. When anger surfaces, instead of being swept away, we inquire into its root. Is it a reaction to injustice, a violated boundary, or a challenge to a held belief? This is not mere intellect, but a felt exploration, acknowledging anger's heat and expansive energy, then gently probing its source. It may spring from attachment to fairness or aversion to disrespect. Observing these links loosens automatic reactions. Anger's energy can become clarity about values and boundaries, enabling wise response rather than impulsive reaction. The aim is not suppression, but understanding, until the emotion's power to disturb diminishes. When sorrow arises, meet it with the same curiosity. Feel its contours. Where in the body does it sit? A dull ache, weight, or emptiness? Allowing sorrow to be without judgment or narrative creates space for it to unfold. Often beneath sorrow lies attachment to what was lost, or resistance to impermanence. Seeing this softens sorrow, not by minimizing loss, but by changing our relationship to it. So we move through grief with presence and cultivate resilience, not dependent on circumstance. This mindful witnessing extends to all states. When joy appears, notice its fleeting nature and appreciate without clinging. When boredom or restlessness comes, turn inward and observe its qualities. These clues can reveal aversion to stillness or attachment to constant engagement. What could have been frustration becomes an opportunity for self-understanding and steadier peace. At the heart of the practice is a return to the present, recognizing thoughts, emotions, and sensations as transient visitors. Suffering often arises from clinging or aversion. Meeting experience with awareness creates a spaciousness that lets states pass without lasting disturbance. That spaciousness is open and receptive, not empty. A quiet sanctuary where we observe consciousness with gentle detachment, remembering that our true nature is not defined by passing phenomena. Through continuous practice, we deepen our capacity to witness, accept, and release, discovering inner freedom from habitual reactivity and an abiding core of awareness that remains serene and available. This steady anchor guides us through life with wisdom and grace. In this ongoing journey, we turn to a profound, often misunderstood practice: renunciation. It is not severe deprivation or rejection of the world's joys. Within our practice, renunciation is an inner laboratory, a space for precise, compassionate observation. It is an intentional inquiry into attachments and aversions, a subtle investigation into the mechanics of suffering and liberation. By mindfully engaging in letting go, even of small, seemingly insignificant things, we create a direct opportunity to witness the mind's workings, like a scientist observing phenomena in a controlled setting. We do not aim to eradicate desire, denying our humanness, but to understand its origins, trajectory, and dissolution. This gentle release, whether of a minor pleasure, a subtle preference, or an unskillful habit, becomes a magnifying glass, revealing the processes that generate agitation, restlessness, and dissatisfaction. Consider a habitual indulgence, a favored food or drink, an hour lost to distraction, or a persistent complaint. When we refrain, not from rigid prohibition, but from curious experiment, we open a window into the mind's architecture. At first, a subtle longing or mild irritation may arise. This is not failure. It is the moment of insight. Observe these feelings without judgment. Where do they surface in the body? What thoughts accompany them? Are they fleeting or persistent? We do not suppress sensations, but stay present with their texture and duration. This quiet observation reveals how quickly the mind constructs narratives around lack or clings to expected pleasure. We begin to see that discomfort stems not from the object's absence, but from the mind's resistance to that absence, its attachment to gratification. The practice extends to subtler mental habits, needing to be right, replaying grievances, or filling every moment with stimulation. Renunciation here is a gentle turning away. Instead of defending a position, we might listen in silence. Instead of replaying the past, we bring attention to the breath. Instead of reaching for distraction, we rest in the present. Each time, we are a patient, compassionate observer of the mind's reactions. We notice the urge, the inner dialogue, the subtle tension when impulses aren't immediately fulfilled. Through sustained witnessing, we disarm the mechanisms that generate agitation and discover peace not in satisfying every desire, but in the spaciousness that arises when we let go, even momentarily. The teaching is clear. Lasting well-being does not depend on acquiring or avoiding external circumstances. It is not found in ceaseless pleasure-seeking or elaborate escape. It emerges from inner liberation, freedom from craving and aversion. When we observe the mind's dance around desire and rejection and choose to step back, we cultivate a deep, stable sense of well-being independent of conditions. This is the fruit of renunciation, not somber restriction, but radiant freedom. The quiet joy of a mind unburdened by its demands, possessing an inherent capacity for peace and contentment. This inner contentment is resilient, a steady strength facing life's flux. Through mindful renunciation, we do not deny the world its beauty or challenges, but change our relationship to them, appreciating without clinging, engaging without grasping, experiencing without being swept away. Each small act of letting go builds the muscle of non-attachment, cultivating a mind less reactive, more spacious, and profoundly at ease. It redirects us from relentless pursuit of external satisfaction toward an inner wellspring of peace, always available beneath conditioned responses. This practice invites us to explore gently yet deeply the mind's boundless capacity for freedom, not by accumulating, but by the wisdom of letting go. We shift our gaze from the inner work of renunciation to its outward expression in our relations. Insights grown in stillness are tested here. The middle way, a guide through life's uncertainties, goes beyond introspection to show how to foster connection within the human family. Cultivating goodwill is not mere politeness, but a deep wish for the well-being of all beings, an intention that shapes words, actions, and silent presence. It asks us to meet others with an open heart, to recognize shared humanity, even when perspectives diverge. Listen to comprehend, speak to offer and clarify, act to ease suffering rather than from self-interest. This turn from self-centeredness to care for the collective is the middle way in action. It transcends selfish isolation and untethered altruism, finding a balanced, sustainable way to contribute to harmony. In the delicate dance of communication, goodwill soothes and opens space for true exchange. Too often, interactions are shadowed by an unspoken agenda, a need to be right, a desire to persuade, an impulse to control. Attachments to certainty erect barriers to understanding. We become so intent on making our case that we stop absorbing the other's voice, like two people speaking past each other, each erecting a carefully built edifice of truth. The chance for shared insight slips away. The middle way moves us from rigid assertion and passive silence toward a spacious mind, not clinging to conclusions but open to new seeing. This requires humility, an admission that our view is one facet of a multifaceted reality and that others hold valid experiences and insights. This practical ethic extends into relationships, emphasizing the cultivation of goodwill. Harmony arises when people strive to understand and help, rather than impose certainties. Instead of treating disagreement as a battle to be won, we can see it as an opportunity for collective learning. The ego's insistence on being correct often hides the simple truth that all beings yearn for connection. Letting go of the need for personal triumph frees energy bound in defensiveness for compassionate engagement. We move from intellectual combat to collaborative inquiry, where the aim is not to prove a point, but to reach shared clarity that benefits everyone. Conflict can then become a catalyst for deeper empathy and stronger bonds. By fostering mutual respect and genuine concern, we create soil for solutions that honor the dignity and wisdom of each person, moving beyond binaries toward a more inclusive understanding. True strength lies not in unbending conviction, but in the flexible wisdom to adapt, to listen, and to seek the well-being of the whole. Vulnerability meets acceptance. Differences are explored with curiosity rather than fear. Consider the ripple of this shift. When one person brings genuine goodwill, trust begins to form, inviting others to lower defenses, speak openly, and listen with receptivity. Compassion begets compassion. Understanding fosters further understanding. Conversely, a closed mind or controlling agenda breeds defensiveness and stifles dialogue. The middle way, then, is not only personal practice, but a relational ethic, a manner of being that consciously contributes to collective well-being. It asks us to take responsibility for our inner states and the energetic quality we bring to encounters, choosing presence over reactivity, empathy over judgment, collaboration over competition. In doing so, we become quiet agents of harmony, transforming immediate environments and contributing to a more compassionate world, one interaction at a time. The path of goodwill continually invites us to soften, to open, and to connect, remembering that individual flourishing is bound to the flourishing of all. This mindful approach helps us navigate human complexity with a serene heart, building bridges across difference and cultivating shared purpose that transcends personal concern. We practice the gentle art of presence, allowing mutual respect and abiding compassion to unfold, recognizing that life's richness is found in the quality of our connections, warmed by the steady lamp of goodwill. In this serene journey, we arrive at a simple truth. Life is an ever-flowing river, a continuum of change and uncertainty. We are invited to flow with it, to accept uncertainty as companion rather than adversary. The mind habitually builds dams, trying to divert the current in search of predictability. But the river resists confinement. It teaches that peace does not come from rigid control, but from a gentle surrender to its rhythm, a willingness to move with currents rather than against them. This surrender is not passive resignation. It is active, mindful engagement with what is, recognizing that within the flow there is a profound intelligence. It is a posture of openness, a soft receiving of whatever arises, without clinging to pleasure or pushing away difficulty. The river carries tranquil stretches and turbulent rapids. Our practice is to navigate both with the same equanimity and inner stillness. We learn to trust the wisdom that grows from a peaceful, attentive mind, a mind not caught in what was or might be, but present to the unfolding moment. This trust is not blind faith, but cultivated discernment, arising from steady observation and a loosening of attachment to outcomes. True progress lies not in reaching a fixed destination, but in the ongoing journey, balancing, letting go, detaching from stories and expectations. Each breath, each step by the riverbank, becomes an opportunity to deepen serenity, to find quietude from the heart of awakened awareness. The river invites us to live with a liberated spirit, a mind fluid and adaptable, finding peace not in the absence of change but in the dance with it. Accepting life as flow does not mean withdrawing from effort or engagement. Rather, it fosters more skillful, compassionate action. When we stop fighting the current, energy freed from resistance becomes available for wise action. Imagine a boatman who knows the river's moods. He does not battle eddies and rapids but uses their energy, steering with gentle precision. Likewise, a mind that welcomes uncertainty is not paralyzed. It becomes resourceful, flexible, present. It meets challenges not with panic or rigid plans, but with open curiosity and readiness to adapt. This dynamic adaptation marks the awakened mind. When a new obstacle appears, we do not lament or cling to a fixed path. Instead, we observe, assess, and modify course, finding creative solutions that arise from calm clarity. This is the art of responsibility, the capacity to respond skillfully and compassionately without being driven by fear or unexamined desire. It shifts attention from controlling the world to cultivating internal resilience, a deep well of peace that stays steady amid turbulence. Balance and detachment are ongoing practices, not final achievements. Like tending a garden, they require care, attention, and willingness to release what no longer serves. Balance means the middle way, avoiding extremes of craving and aversion. It is effort without strain, engagement without clinging. Detachment is not indifference. It is freedom from the mental grip on outcomes, possessions, ideas, even self-narratives. Detached, we can enjoy beauty and relationships with lightness, aware that all things are impermanent. This freedom lets us love without clinging, strive without anxiety, live fully without fear of loss. Each moment becomes a laboratory for practice. Pleasant sensations observed without grasping, unpleasant feelings acknowledged without identification or rejection. This gentle habit retrains the mind, loosening patterns of grasping and aversion, and revealing inner liberation. Finding serenity in each breath anchors the practice. Breath is always here, a constant point of return. When the mind slips into past regret or future anxiety, the breath invites us back to now. By observing inhale and exhale without judgment or control, we cultivate presence. Mindful breathing grounds us, creating space where thoughts and emotions can arise and pass without disturbing calm. The breath is a portable sanctuary, available regardless of circumstances, a tool for equanimity that stabilizes the mind in turbulence and shows that peace is discovered within, not sought outside. Returning to the breath, gently and patiently, deepens stillness, making us more resilient, compassionate, and aligned with the living wisdom that pervades existence. In this sustained presence, nurtured by breath, we learn to flow with the river of life, thriving in its currents, finding joy and freedom in every moment.